Thank you all for joining us virtually, and for those of us who are with us in person. We would like to call this meeting to order on Wednesday, April 6, 2022. We will now have an invocation. Mayor Pro Tem Harris, do you mind blessing us with the invocation?
Stand. Our heads. Most heavenly, most gracious Father, we thank you now for this opportunity to come together on one accord. We pray now, Father God, for each and every person that's here under the sound of my voice. We pray now, Father God, for the residents of the city of Brunswick and all of those who have a vested interest. Father God, we thank you now for each and every person on this dais. We pray now, God, that you will allow our minds to come together as we conduct the business and be about your business. We ask now that you will bless the city, continue to keep us, lead us, and guide us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Commissioner Roll, will you do the pledge of allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We will now move on to the approval of the agenda as presented. If there are any addendums, I'm sorry, there's a little bit of feedback, so we're trying to find the right place for the mic. Go. If there are any addendums or subtractions, they will be heard now. And if there are none, we will move forward with a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Motion to accept the agenda as printed.
Here in the first, do I have a second?
Second.
Here in a first and a second, all those who are in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Hearing none, the agenda is approved, and we'll move on to work. On number 2, we will have, as an introduction, the chairman of the Southeast Georgia Health System Hospital Authority, Mr. Roosevelt Harris. We are blessed to have you back in the building. We know you spent many years giving of your service, not only to the city, but of the community. And we are just thankful to have you back once again, introducing our new CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank this body for submitting my name to serve on the hospital authority. And I think it was last year I became chairman of the hospital authority. And again, I just want to thank y'all for this opportunity. And it's been exciting. It's really been exciting. This last year, we learned that our CEO was going to be retiring. So naturally, we had to go out and start searching for a new CEO. And today, I'm proud to say that we did find CEO. He began January of this year. Mr. Scott Rain, he joined Southeast Georgia Health System as its president and chief executive officer in January of 2022. Raised in West Virginia, Mr. Rains earned his bachelor's degree in business administration from West Virginia Institute of Technology, his master's in business administration with a specialization in healthcare from West Virginia University, and a master's degree in higher education and counseling from Morehead State University. Prior to joining the health system, Mr. Rains served as president of Baptist Hospital Incorporation and executive vice president of Baptist Healthcare Corporation in Pensacola, Florida. During his tenure, he led Northwest Florida and South Alabama's largest health system, which includes 5 hospitals and residency and fellowship programs in orthopedic, internal medicine, primary care, sports medicine, cardiology, and anesthesia. The system is a national leader in patient satisfaction, with over half of the hospitals in the United States visiting for advice and consultation. Mr. Rains is a past president of the Tennessee Hospital Association and a fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executives. He has served on many local boards of directors and held several volunteer roles in communities where he has lived. Mr. Rains and his wife, Shwana, have 2 daughters, Delaney, a first-year medical student, and Ella, a high school graduate. And now I present to you Mr. Scott Raines.
Thank you, Roosevelt. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, commissioners, for having me this evening. And thank you for the work that you do on behalf of the city. Some of you I've met prior to being here informally or in other meetings. Others I'm meeting for the first time, which is really the purpose of me being here before you this evening. I'm humbled and honored to be a part of Southeast Georgia Health System, to be associated and involved with people like Roosevelt and all of our board members. And I'm humbled to be able to lead a team of 3,000 employees, give or take, throughout the health system for the betterment of Brunswick and our 6-county catchment area that we serve. My wife, Shauna, is back in Pensacola with our youngest daughter, who's graduating just in a month from high school and on her way to college. But we are quickly becoming not only residents of the area, but very much look forward to being involved in it in civic ways to give back as much as we possibly can. So we're excited about that. Just a couple of quick words about what's going on at the hospital that you've probably read about or heard about that I just want to articulate before you. We are, as a hospital, for the first time in over 2 years, COVID-free. We do not have a patient that's COVID positive in a bed and have not had a patient that's COVID positive in a bed. So we're fast approaching a week there of that being the case. And you might imagine that the entire team, but especially our frontline staff and caregivers, it's a humbling and inspirational period of time for them, because candidly, it has been somewhat equivalent to going to war. In fact, a study released today from Vanderbilt University and Duke University suggests that nurses are experiencing the same traumatic psychological episodes that soldiers at war have experienced. And when you think about what they've seen and what they've done gallantly over 2 years across the entire country, I think that we can appreciate that. So this is my way of saying before you, thanks to the entire healthcare industry, our first responders, and all who have fought the good fight and have put us where we are today. It is not over, but we've made headway. You might know that we're in the throes of a construction project. We're well downstream in the throes of $140 to $150 million construction project during the pandemic. So that's an additional challenge if you think about how we've had to work and what we've had to do. Once again, an opportunity to celebrate the team at Southeast Georgia Health System. So we're excited about that. A couple other things, and I'll stand down and get out of your way or answer any questions you may have. You probably have heard within the last week and a half that we have partnered with Coastal College of Georgia to enhance their nursing program to the tune of, candidly, $2 million over a 4-year period, whereby they will enroll more nurses in their program on an annual basis starting next year. They will graduate nurses more frequently than one time a year, starting a few years out, and they will have counselors for success to be in a place to help shepherd nursing students through. We're part of the three-legged chair. We're the healthcare entity that improves healthcare and the quality of life in the communities that we serve. They're the educational component of it to improve the education of our community at a higher ed level. And then, of course, the economics of the community is within our collective purview. So the Coastal College of Georgia, under the direction of Dr. Michelle Johnston, and Southeast Georgia Health System are a whole lot more alike than we are different when you think about what our ultimate mission and vision really is. Speaking of that economic impact, I want to remind the council, the commission, and the mayor, just for what it's worth, that Southeast Georgia Health System, in accordance to the Georgia Hospital Association's fairly recent study, is a catalyst for nearly $750 million of economic impact in this region. So not only are we the largest employer, we are vital to the economy when you think about the number of small businesses that are associated with us and the business that we generate throughout. But finally, we are here to give care. We are here to care for all. We may not always be able to heal, but we can always care. And there are 3,000 members, some direct caregivers, some that are indirect caregivers, but they are all caregivers of our community. And we're proud to do that. We've been doing that since 1888 for this region and the community. And we plan to do that forevermore. And that doesn't happen without the people that are working in the hospital today and every day, 24/7, 365, whether it be in the midst of a pandemic or not. I just want to celebrate those team members and the patients in the community that entrust us to serve them, and know that we'll do our level best to continue that and to up the bar in all that we do. So with that said, Mayor, I'm happy to get out of your way or answer any questions that you all may have.
Well, I want to say, first off, thank you for coming to talk to us about the advancements that you all have, and hearing that we are COVID-free is something that beyond an amazing feat.
Yes,
I
it
think
is.
it's a miracle, and the miracle workers that you have on your staff. We're
Amen.
thankful for them being in our community. I wanted to open it up to the rest of the commission for comment or question.
You know, I was just gonna say, I'm glad that you related to us, Scott, that you're COVID-free there. Let me tell you, this commission has discussed having a First Friday down here and having it in appreciation of what you folks have done at the hospital, not only during, but a lot during the pandemic,
Yes,
but for
sir.
what you do. I don't know where it is. I don't serve the Downtown Development Authority's board, but I just think that'll be one of the greatest things in the world to have you folks down here and just have a night that's named for the hospital.
Thank you for that.
Hopefully we can get that together. I thank you for what y'all do so
Love it.
much.
Thank
And
you, sir.
I'm coming to see you too, by the way.
Please do.
Thank you.
Please do. Other
And
questions?
Roosevelt. I want to see Roosevelt too.
I want to echo those sentiments as well. But I have a couple of questions, and maybe you can consider them questions or observations.
Sure.
The housing impact. As the chairperson of the land bank, we'd like to get you all to come in at some point for discussion with us, considering the housing impact and the things that we're working on with the land bank, and some of the incentives and stuff that we're considering to draw people into the city, and to have them not just work and then go out of the city, but to work, live, and play within the city boundaries. Also, being that I am a new Bella of twins, and my daughter and the babies are here with me now, what are your plans for pediatric services and recruitment? Because she's still going to be traveling up to Atlanta for the first year, but we're trying to find those comparable services for
Sure.
pediatric care.
Sure. We're going to continue to provide what we've done and work more with Wolfson to enhance what we do in the specialty spaces with regards to pediatric care. The pediatricians that we have, we are recruiting additional pediatricians as we speak. So we're going to continue to work to meet the needs of the community and broaden what we provide beyond general pediatric care, at least in an outpatient clinic setting, if not beyond. And as far as the offer to be a part of and join you with regards to housing, I'd love to. I'd welcome the opportunity to do so.
Thank you. And thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Welcome to Brunswick.
Yes.
Thrilled to be here. It's
Lynn
beautiful.
County. Yeah.
It's a proud place to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Roosevelt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roosevelt probably wants to sit around for this meeting more than likely. He's not on the hot seat.
Thank you all.
We will now move on to presentation. It's a presentation by Coastal Community Health Services. Dr. Chandler, who's joining us virtually, and City Manager McDuffie.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, for allowing us to bring this presentation to the commission this evening. Dr. Chandler is with Coastal Community Healthcare. They have a couple of locations already in the community, and they are well on their way of establishing a downtown clinic. Dr. Chandler has brought a proposal to the city and county and is requesting support of the efforts to establish the clinic downtown. He has some great ideas, as Southeast Georgia Healthcare has spoken about the healthcare and health needs in the community. Certainly a hospital is a great asset to the community, but also the ancillary clinics and provisions of service outside of that also make up for a full healthcare provision in the community. And basically the clinics that Dr. Chandler has and is establishing will become a great asset. I will allow him to provide specific information about their services in the proposal that he has set forth. But we really would like to provide support for him in this effort and join in and try and establish a close relationship with the city in this regard. So thank you, Dr. Chandler.
Yes, and good afternoon, Mayor and fellow officials. I apologize that I was not able to be physically present, but I do want to thank you for this time. As mentioned, Coastal Community Health has multiple clinics throughout the county, both Blaine County and McIntosh County. What we acknowledged was that this past year, we served over 4,000 individuals, totaling almost over 18,000 visits. And many of those individuals came from the city of Brunswick based on our data. But we also realized that access to care was still a struggle for many of those within the community. And as a result, we wanted to expand services downtown, and we'll be doing that at 1600 Ellis Street. This clinic will be rather unique in that not only will we have a family nurse practitioner on site, we're also in the process of recruiting a pediatric nurse practitioner or a pediatric MD pediatrician to be on site as well. This will make it extremely accessible both for adults, adolescents, and equally we'll be adding a pharmacy within the clinic. This pharmacy is what's known as a 340B pharmacy, which ensures that we're able to provide medication at a significantly discounted rate to the populations we serve. In essence, we'll be increasing the equity of healthcare for the community there. We're extremely proud of this because we'll also provide behavioral health services with an LPC, that will provide counseling, as well as a psychiatric nurse practitioner that will help with medication management. Equally, members that utilize the clinic will be part of our overall system and have access to our dental program that's behind the mall on Shoppers Way. With this, as a result, we were requesting $220,000 per year for the next 3 years, with half of that coming from the county and half of that coming from the city. The county has been very welcoming and has gave great signs that they will support this. And as such, we're now approaching the city and ask for your support. The average cost for a clinic of this nature, which will, as mentioned, have a pharmacist, a pharmacy technician, a pediatric nurse practitioner, and a family nurse practitioner and counselors on site, run anywhere from $545,000 and up. Coastal Community Health is equally putting in $324,000 and is asking for the $220,000 of support from both the county and the city. While we are not a free clinic, we do understand we play a significant role within the community, both in providing education on health training, and also just making healthcare more accessible. With that said, I'm open to answering any questions that the board may have.
Dr. Chandler, we want to thank you for coming before us. We know that you've also come before the Finance Committee and presented there as well. So with that, I also want to take a moment to thank you because I know you've spent time with each commissioner individually, and you've had the time with each of us individually to kind of really explain the totality of your program. And one of the things that I was most impressed by and most interested in is the fact that it could really be a doctor for the community and for every facet of the community, that you could kind of do your general physician work there. You could do your natural, regular preventative care there, which we know is so important. And to hear that you're really kind of game planning and thinking about what it means to expand into dentistry as well, and having that at a price point that is open to every single person in our community is something that I believe is important and worthwhile for us to really think about investing in. So I thank you for being here with us, and I want to open it up to questions from the commission. Thank you.
Dr. Chandler, I would like to ask you, and just acknowledge that we've got a Glenn County Health Department here in Brunswick. Why do we need Coastal Community Health Services program in downtown Brunswick?
I'm glad you asked that question. Coastal Community Health is needed for a number of reasons. The health department primarily focuses on immunization and some education. As it pertains to preventive care and primary care, that is not their doing. So in essence, we serve that need. Equally, we know that transportation, whether it be 2-3 miles up, plays a significant role for many within the city of Brunswick. So our goal is to be accessible where the care is needed, when it's needed. Also, as a federally funded program, which is called a FQHC, we are constantly receiving information that is pumped directly to the community, including additional resources like behavioral health and medication management. These are not things that the health department does. They focus mostly on immunization and education at this time.
That's all I've got right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Chandler.
sir.
Commissioner Case. Any more questions or comments for Dr. Chandler?
I just want to tell him thank you for bringing the services. When we met in the meeting with him, we had the opportunity to hear the presentation and to hear the fullness of what what's going to be offered by Coastal. And really it's a benefit for this area because it's going to be a concentration within this area. And so not only is it going to be affordable health care, it's going to be preventive health care that the city and the county can partner with and through with its citizens as well as with Coastal. And also it's going to be meniable as far as transportation limitation goes for residents that's within this area. So I think it's an awesome opportunity. And so I look forward to the success of it.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to comment. One of the, I guess, critical aspects that I see is that they have proposed an outreach for homeless population as well and providing services to that facet of our community. The other thing I wanted to say was if you haven't visited the clinic out at Shoppers Way, it is a really modern, very clean, organized facility. As a new person in the community, I have not established a lot of medical relationships. And so me and my daughter has experienced firsthand the healthcare that they provide. And to me, it was top notch. It was very clean. I had a ear infection, went away in 3 days, and I was so pleased with the service that I got there. And they were able to get us in rather quickly. So I think as a asset to the community, and I certainly want to encourage our a part of our promotions. So thank you.
I do have one other question I'd like to ask. You and I talked about Kathy Chip Slay,
Yes, sir.
and was she Coastal Community Health, or did that exist when Kathy started the clinic there on L Street?
No, sir. Coastal Community Health was its own entity. Kathy Chip had a health center. We acknowledged the work she was doing within the community at her particular location. And as a result, partnered with her to acquire her practice, to continue the services that she was doing, but ultimately being able to do it in a way that expanded services beyond her current ability, as I think she was in the process of semi-retiring.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I also like to make one other comment, if I may, Mayor.
Please.
Thank you, sir. As mentioned about the homeless care, what we notice, whether it's individuals who are ending up in our jails who are homeless, a lot of it has to do with behavioral health and as well as medication management. And as mentioned, we are partnering with different entities within the city to help individuals transition in a manner in which they can ideally transition out of their situation. So we do have services such as our mobile unit that we're able to take to some of these different places and provide that support as well, while also being accessible to small businesses within the city who are hiring and employing individuals, but perhaps can't afford to offer their employees health insurance. We provide an opportunity in which those individuals can then come to us and receive the level of care that's necessary. So again, we intend to be extremely involved, whether it's through recruitment and employment of individuals for private practices, but also for the homeless population, the city officials, and community as a whole.
We appreciate that, Dr. Chandler. And again, we appreciate the time that you spent with us as a whole, as the Finance Committee and each of the commissioners individually. If there are no more questions or comments, we'll let you get out of here. So thank you so much, Dr. Chandler. We look forward to continuing to work this through the process to hopefully bring it before us again.
Thank you. Thank you all, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, we'll now move on to nominations, and we have three nominations to put before the hospital authority to replace the vacant seat of Mr. Barrett Walker. His term expires on the 30th of this month. Mr. Walker has also put his name forth to continue to be considered to refill his nomination. So one of the names is Mr. Barrett Walker. The second person we have is Mrs. Akia Banks. And the third name we have is Mrs. Audrey Gibbons. I want to ensure, as I always like to make sure, that I think we are just putting these names forth and the hospital board will make their final choice. So there's no need to take a vote, or we take.
No, we do. I'll make a motion that we approve these three applicants and push them forward to the hospital authority as filling that vacancy.
Second.
Here in a first and a second, all those who are in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, we will submit these three names to the hospital board. Moving on to consent agenda items, consider approval of March 16th, 2022 regularly scheduled minutes. Ms.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Here in a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Moving on to the items to consider for approval. Consider approval of financial reports as of February 28th, 2022. Director Mills. Oh, okay.
You have before you the minutes for, or the financial statements for February 28th. At that point, we are 2/3 of the way through the year. I want to point out that for February, you'll see we had $2.2 million in revenues, which is good business. A month after we collected majority of taxes, but I wanted to let you know that we did receive over $1 million in February from Georgia Power. Perhaps more important, year to date, we show revenues of approximately $15 million with expenditures of $8.3 million. These are expenditures of $6.2 million. There is $9,312,000 in Prime South, $300,000 that is set aside for Cary Park. Loss for the month of February of previous years. February is up 17.79%. Year to date, we're up 14.2% for the month of the year as compared to last year at the same time. Unfortunately, title ad valorem tax for the month of February dropped by 30.84%. I presume that cars out there, people have buying automobiles, so I'm presuming that that is one problem for February. to date, we're up 6%, which really just equates to approximately 47. Next page, you have SLOSS 6. I apologize for the sliding, it's not good for my eyes.
There's some lights out up there too. Yeah.
Or we have extended in SLOSS 6 a total of $15.2 million. $3.1 million was returned back to us through either partnerships with Lynn County or we received from grants. And so the net amount that the city has expended since the inception of SLOSS 6 as of February 28th. You will see in the middle of the page on the left-hand side, we've got a cash balance of $3.8 million in the SLOSS 6 account. And you can also see at the bottom where I have listed the original amount that was budgeted for SLOSS collections and compared to what we actually collected. Some of that money, which was like $1.894 million, some of that money was used and allocated to other projects. But the amount that you see that we have not done with is right at the cash balance from showing the overage collections that has not been allocated. Full tax and interest has been earned. So I'm showing a balance of $460,000. Next page, we have SLOSS 5. Once again, there's reporting the balance, which is earning. That's $1,361,000. Set aside to purchase the fire department. For street commons, there's been no activity in that fund for this fiscal year, other than interest being earned on the account. There's a cash balance of $337,000. Roosevelt Harris Multi-Purpose Center. You will see we have a total inflows of $232,000. $80,000 of that was cash that general fund transferred into Roosevelt Harris for funding. That's approximately 52.8%, and 6% of the year. So far, we have not received transferring as much as we have left. Expenditures for the year $244,000. There is a cash balance in $15.8 million. Sorry, that would be nice. $15,000. Okay, now I'm showing the ARPA funds, which deposits received in June 2021. $6 million in returns. Today, $28,000. For total funds of $4.6 million. We have dispersed $47,000 in back to business for us with DDA loans and $15,000 in back to business for us with non-DDA loans. Leaves us a balance of remaining funds as $228 or $4,572,000. Next thing is the sanitation fund. You'll see $1.9 million, so it's been a little over $1 million for operating income of $842,000 in that fund. There is a cash balance of $692,000, and we also still have $190,000 set aside. Free grant. Sanitation and billing, you can see it right at $132,000 for the actual crash. Year to date, $1,023,000. Legal refuse year to date, $4,000, and street sweeping, $34,000. For our utility fund, we have total inflows, $922,000, operating expenditures, $656,000, which leaves us with a net $266,000. We have a cash balance in stormwater utility of $761,000. And to make a point that we collect most of the stormwater utilities already. There will not be a lot coming in before the end of taxes. General collective. There were no animal control, traffic control expenditures for the month of February. And in fact, today, we did have in February some expenses paid back or money to get back to the county to subsidize city children who are taking registered in county activities. There were 5 flags football, 18 soccer, 59 tackle football, and 7 cheerleading participants. That's just the rest of the Lawrence Center. The expenditures for the month of February, $10,000 year to date. $86,000, and remain pretty even throughout the year, about $10,000 a month, with the primary expense being for salaries and.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Kathy, it looks like we've moved a lot of money back to Prime South.
We have all of our money. Excuse me, all of our money's been moved, because the rate is much higher at Jordan Fund 1.
What are we getting right now?
Oh, I think it's about 1% at Prime South, but Jordan Fund was only paying 0.25.
1% is better than 0.25.
Yeah, and we are looking, try to decide some things that we could possibly do, because we are, luckily, at whatever we have cash out there. So, you know, not
Well-
not a lot paid very much at all, but.
That's really a good thing that we have moved that money back in here. They're a local bank, and we're going to ask people locally here to support a splash for us. So I know that wasn't the motivator, the 1% is, but it's good business to do business in town, and I believe that, I really do. But I believe it's got to be competitive also. I mean, it's just got to be, and that happened here. It really did, thanks to William Kitts.
It's certainly
it
happened to
happened.
be in this position, but it was in the position that we were in, which was, I'm not saying I made a turnaround, I'm saying the economy, you know, when I first started as finance director, we were borrowing. And so
$1.5 million a year for those that don't know. So just remember that. $1.5 million. This is still not the horn of plenty. Let me assure you that it's better, but it's not the horn of plenty. Unfortunately. Yeah, that stuck out like the sore thumb, and it was just good for me to see that. It really was. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Director Mills?
My question, or even an observation. So all we had was 89 participants in the recreation. That's all I'm counting from the number shown. So out of a population, I wouldn't even know how many kids we have. But general population of about 16,000 people. We only have 89 children coming out for recreational sports at the county. I don't know if anybody else sees a problem in that, but I do.
We know what the county, the number of kids from the county.
So it's gonna take a full amount, not clear.
It's just cause for us to just continue working diligently regarding not just the splash, but the lost and getting our recreation back. That's all.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other comments or questions from the commission?
I'll make a motion that we approve the financial reports of February 28th as presented.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here, the first and a second, all those in favor, show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Hearing none, we have approved financial reports. Thank you, Director Mills.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
We will now move on to the consideration and approval of the sanitation resolution and contract with Republic Services. City Manager McDuffie.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we are requesting approval of the agreement with Republic Services as well as the resolution which establishes the pricing for our waste collection services on our next tax billing. We did go through a lot of this information at previous meetings, so I won't go through most of it, but just to state that the contract itself has a term of 3 years as previous with 2 annual renewals. It also sets forth that we will provide weekly garbage service, weekly trash yard pickup, and weekly recycling services. And those containers will be established as normal. We will go through a significant education campaign because we feel like because we are not changing service providers, we do need to re-educate the public on the requirements for our garbage service, not only for waste collection, but for recycling, yard waste, and for bulk trash pickup. The bulk trash pickup did change from 2 provisions a year to 12 provisions a year. And we will continue to educate the public on calling in for those services because I feel like the bulk trash is one of our really significant problems we have around the community. And obviously, a lot of people don't understand the process. So we want to fully educate them that it is included in their monthly trash pickup services and that they can call in for free 12 times throughout the year for those pickups to be made. We will also ask the code enforcement to help us reinforce this, to provide, information door to door as needed and help us to make this service better. The rate increase, of course, we presented last time was for $25.50 per month, which is overall a $40 increase per year for our residential services. We did, make sure that the complaint penalty was incorporated as it has been in the past. They are required to pick up trash services within 24 hours if they are missed. But again, we want to make sure that the public knows what their responsibility in making sure that the trash is put out at the proper time, in the proper places, without obstructions because of the automated service and those type things. So again, the education of this process will be very important. For backdoor services, it is going to be required as normal for medical necessities. And there will be, people can have a backdoor service without that, but they will have to contract that through the service provider. I think those are the only points that I had to make on the contract. The service providers are virtually available for questions and comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager McDuffie. Thank you for all of your work that you've done on this. I just want to say, I think it is amazing that you've wrapped it up from 2 bulk pickups a year to 12 and seeing some of the areas around our city. We do know how important that is to make sure that we have bulk pickup and have it consistently, and to have that grow by that amount is really a win, I think, for the city. So I want to thank you for your work on that. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Yeah, I'd like to say, are they going to deliver carts for you, Regina, when people need carts? I
Yeah.
don't see it on here. And I'm not saying it needs to be on here.
Yes.
But are they still charging $10 per cart? Is that what they're?
Based on, what we have asked them to do is to make sure that every cart and every recycling cart is in working order at this point and is properly maintained. and in good condition. If there's any carts out there that are damaged, at this point, we need to make sure they're fixed. In terms of an additional cart, are you asking if the replacement of the cart or if it was for an
No,
additional
I'm
cart?
saying, I know when it was set up that they made the delivery for the carts and they charged the city $10. So it wouldn't need to be on here. I'm just asking, did y'all cover that? And is that still the fee?
Now, as far as delivering carts, everyone should, if a new cart is delivered,
Mhm.
I need to make sure. I
Yeah,
don't see
that's all,
that in
just
there.
to check it. I'm not
Okay.
sure it needs to be here because the charge goes to the city, if I remember correctly, and not the customer.
Okay,
So,
But I'll make sure
just
that's
for you to
covered.
check, you know.
okay. Thank you.
And the other thing that I think that needs to be precise on here is that backdoor delivery is with a medical doctor's prescription. If you just leave it backdoor delivery, you're gonna have to explain to folks when they get these things, because they're gonna want backdoor. I'm sorry, pick up and
It has to be a medical necessity that's required by a licensed physician. Yes.
right, but it's not stated that way in here, I don't believe. Just check
I
that.
believe it is. I just checked that and I made sure after your comment the last time. So it is stated in that manner.
Believe me, you'll be rolling these things out for nothing if you don't get it right, but it's got to be with a prescription.
Right.
And where does the prescription go, you know, so if you,
It
I'm not
would-
sure that was covered in.
It
here.
would go to our office when they are applying for,
Customer service.
right.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you. Looks good to me.
The only thing I would add is that we do need to make this agreement effective April 1st because we were, had extended the previous agreement to that date. So in order for us to be covered, we had a letter sent to them, this date that would be, this agreement would be effective as of that date.
Says January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. Which is, I don't know how that can be. It's on the very front City of Brunswick page, subject sanitation rate resolution. Purpose, the date, it's got the dates there that don't have the right year.
I'm trying to find on my, is it on the resolution?
Uh-huh,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
let me-
page 46 of our whole packet.
Okay. Okay, let me get there. Well, that's the annual billing for, it's basically how we bill the residential waste fee. It's applicable calendar year.
Okay,
Basically, it's not the contract, it's how we bill it. So when people pay their tax bill in November or December, whenever that date is, that's applicable for the next calendar year.
okay, that makes sense.
Okay,
The only, I think the 12 bulk pickups a year is great. My only concern is that people will just think they can put that stuff on the curb all the time. Because if they're seeing other people doing it, but they have no idea whether somebody's called or not. So I would just ask maybe that our code officers, as they're out, if they notice a higher rate of that kind of stuff out on the curb, because we're not doing ourselves any favor if we're just increasing the number of times that bulk pickups are out there, but they haven't been called in.
well, and that's one of the things that I have checked with the code enforcement. If they see some trash out on the curb, they will go to the door with the door hanger or knock on the door and put information on that door in terms of a number to call for that pickup. So we're going to try and start addressing that and be a little bit more aggressive with it until we feel like the public is aware that they need to call in for that service.
So in reading through the material, it says that, the white goods, furniture, bulk items, but then any loose miscellaneous items have to be bagged up. They can't just be, and none of this includes tires, correct?
No,
Yeah.
it does not.
Okay, thank you.
Well, in any of those bulk pickups, they would need to call customer service to schedule them, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're gonna have those illegal dumps until we tighten up the code enforcement. I mean, it's all there is to it. But this sort of, the way I read this thing really says that you've done the right thing, that you're working more with Republic Industries as a partner in cleaning up Brunswick. And that's what's got to be done. If they're going to do it, they've got to partner with us, and they've got to look around, and they've got to be just as visual as we are when we see the stuff that Julie is talking about.
Yeah, and we've asked them to be more diligent because we feel like the yard trash, when it, in the past, a lot of problems was that it would get contaminated. But the reason that it would get contaminated sometimes was because it was left out so long. So we are asking them to, be diligent in their weekly pickups of the yard trash so that it's not sitting out there for any length of time. And also to be, more cognizant, if it's just a cup or one piece of paper that's put in that yard, just take it out and then still take it as a, okay pile of yard debris. With the bulk pickup, we're also looking at just making sure that those are done, on a regular basis, and we're keeping up with them. We have a new code enforcement officer that's been hired, and for a while now, we will, for the next 3 to 6 months, that person will be more aggressive and more diligent on these bulk pickups until we get better at, the public more knowledgeable about what we're doing.
Great.
We've got to get rid of the illegal dumps. I mean, they just got to. We got the sites out there. We know where they are, and we aren't really addressing those. They, if you put a piece of yellow tape around them or something, it might deter them. I don't know, but pickup is probably the biggest deterrent. And I tell you something that I talked about a long time. This has not got a thing to do with this contract. It's got something to do with cleaning up Brunswick. Putting a camera up at those illegal dumps. And I brought that up one day. Brian might remember it. I don't know if he can hear us here, but Jim Drum was here, and Jim Drum poo-pooed that thing in a hurry. And I never said any more about it, but I don't know if there's a way we could put the cameras up at some of these illegal dumps and stop this stuff. And I really know it. Might check into that with Brian when he gets back from his vacation or Easter break, wherever it is he is.
I'm here.
Thank you.
I don't know if anybody can hear me, but I do recall that conversation. And I do recall that they didn't go further from direction of the city manager, but I believe one of the Commissioner Kaysen would have to correct me, but one of the illegal dumps that we had looked at was at 4th, down by the old 4th Street, by the old where Lanier dead ends down there. That was a problematic area. And I think what we did try to do is put code enforcement in those areas to try to help conduct and bring some people through the process in municipal court, but it's still a prevalent issue.
We've addressed that several times, even when we were doing the annual cleanup.
Sure.
And in our meetings, and even before with Matthew, because DDA has dispensable cameras that they can move and put in certain areas. And so Matthew has done that years ago. He's done that.
You're right. We
Yeah.
did. We put one behind the Salvation Army. I forgot that.
Yeah,
We did.
And so we just have to make
Sure
sure
did.
that we continue to get with him so that he can take those cameras and reposition them in
Yeah, we've done that at a couple of places since I've been here. So we have been trying to, have that kind of ongoing to address some of the known problem areas.
Well, we're also got the bulk stuff, but we're taking care of a lot of yard trash off St. Simon's Island and Jekyll too, right here in the city. It's getting dumped right upon us. I really think one of the ways to help with that too is every department that works for the city of Brunswick's got to be intrinsically involved with the cleanup process. Everyone, I don't care who you are, what department you are. I did it when I was down here. I still do it today, and everybody needs to do it. We'll get there.
Yeah, we
Cool.
cover that in our department meetings,
get
and
there.
I try and get the fire and police and the code enforcement and especially public works, the people who are out there on the streets every day, to look and to report and to call in those trash piles and make sure we are knowing where, the problem areas are.
Is there someplace specifically stated that these new rates for service are to remain the same over the 5 years of the contract? And then what happens the additional 2 years or year by year after the 5 years?
The rates are established for this year. I think there is a 5% increase, but these are the rates that we are priced for the public. And we built in cost increase into our rates. So our rate will not change for 3 years that we're charging, but the rate for pickup will change.
Okay. So the residents in the city won't see a change in price once this new contract starts for 3 years. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, Commissioner Case.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the sanitation contract for Republic Services of Georgia and thank everybody for doing this. It really looks like it was a team effort, and I know how hard it was to get this done, because the very first one, I did it in 1996, I believe, and the man that was sitting on that front bench right there should have been here right now. His name is Roosevelt Harris, and he called heck because people did not want to do away with those jobs that we had in the sanitation department. It was a very, very difficult thing to get it out there. And some folks got elected later on and came on this commission and tried to bring it back. It was sort of in the back of their heads to bring something that had been outsourced, bring it back as jobs. Maybe one day it'll be worth looking at. So we'll see.
Mayor, I would ask that the motion include the effective
Right.
date of April 1st
To be effective April the 1st,
and also
And-
to include the resolution.
and to
Correct.
include the resolution. It is included.
Thank you.
We appreciate that, Commissioner Case. And here in the first, do I hear a second?
I'll make a second.
Here in a first and a second, all of those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you so much, City Manager McDuffie. Moving on, to something we've all been working on for a little bit here, our first responders package. And I think every commissioner, especially Mayor Pro Tem Harris, and those who got locked into our finance committee meeting knows kind of the four or five major pillars of this. And then there's a little bit of an addendum as well to it that includes some of our hourly employees to make sure that we remain competitive in the salary space across the board. So number one, and I will let City Manager McDuffie talk a little bit about that. Number one, we will have a salary increase, $4 for police, $2.80 for fire. The second pillar will be a stipend of $150 a month for both fire persons and police officers who reside inside of the city limits. Again, that is a stipend of $150 for officers and fire persons who reside inside the city limits. The third kind of pillar will be a 3% cost of living adjustment raise that will be locked in yearly. The fourth one will be a $2,500 signing bonus or $15,000 allotted to immediately attract up to 6 new police officers. And the last piece of it will be a quarterly review with both Chief Mobley and Chief Jones about each department's needs and the things that the commission can stay focused on as we work with them to make sure that we undergird and support them as much as we can. So with that, I know each commissioner here has had their additions to it, have had conversations about it, and have dug into it and worked on it for the past couple of months. So I will throw it over to City Manager McDuffie to talk a little bit about some of the numbers that she talked about in the Finance Committee. And she's also sent over a one pager that really delves into the numbers to each of the commissioners to make sure that this is a sustainable package over the years. So I will send it over to City Manager McDuffie.
Okay, as the mayor stated, this does provide raises for our first responders, our police officers and fire at the rate of $4 for our police personnel over the rank or including and over the rank of lieutenant. There are some also raises provided for the others above that level. All sworn officers will be provided raises. In this year, the police department portion of that, including salaries and benefits, will cost us about $164,000. That money will be paid out of currently appropriated salary budgets and will not cost anything over what we have budgeted this year. In the fire department, we are advocating for raises of $2 per firefighter, sworn firefighters, which equates to about $2.80 if you $2.80 if you equate it to the police department, or $3 for normal work hours. The raises for the fire department are calculated to cost $72,500, and again, that will be covered in the current salary budget. So there's no additional appropriation needed for this year. Those raises were calculated out for next year, and we will adjust some of our authorized strength. For the police department, of course, they have 72 authorized positions in their department. The budget for next year will have approximately 55 funded positions for the police department so that we can provide for these raises. We will have to add about $250,000 into the budget to support the additional raises. But of course, you know, as we hire people, it's not going to be everybody hired at once, so there will be some adjustments in that. For the fire department, they have approximately, well, they have 42 positions authorized. The budget next year, in order to make this plan affordable, will have 35 authorized positions funded. And generally, we don't fund all the positions in the police and fire department anyway, because of the level of turnover throughout the years. And we always have an attrition factor built in. So the fire department will cost an additional $193,000 for next year's budget, with the number of authorized personnel as stated. We also, as the mayor stated, will have some adjustments so that the pay plan will reflect these increases, and also where our minimum salary will be $14.05 per hour. Are there any questions regarding that information?
I have one quick question. I think the 2,500 signing bonus for the police department, what are there any special stipulations or restrictions? In other words, they have to be employed for a certain period of time, or?
They will have to be employed for a 2-year period, and that will be only for certified officers.
Okay.
It will not be for non-certified. And in order to address compression issues, we will, once we set the salary, new officers will be, non-certified will be 5% less, and new officers coming in will be 2.5% less. But then we'll have the officers who are currently here at that starting rate. So we will continue to make sure that we don't go into any compression issues by putting these salary increases in place.
Thank you, City Manager. I see we have both chiefs with us who've been a part of the process, who really were generators of ideas about how we get this done, and has worked diligently, not only with each and every commissioner, but also with the city manager and their officers and fire persons to really try and fill out the need. So having both of you with us, I didn't want to move forward without giving you all a chance to say something if you'd like. I know you guys work diligently and are men of few words, but if you wanted to, I wanted to open the floor up to you as well. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Are there any other questions or comments on the first responders package? Before we move to a motion, I just want to take a moment and thank really every member of the commission. I know there's been a lot going on in the community about how we make sure that we not only recruit but retain fire persons and officers. And what I want to assure not only our citizens of, but not only that, but our chiefs, is that this is an ongoing process. We're always considering ways that we can make it better to serve in public safety and to serve our communities here. So this isn't just the last step, but it's a first step in a continual work to make sure that we're undergirding you all the way we need to. So I want to thank every commissioner for the work and the hours that they put in having conversations with myself, the chiefs, and others to bring this forward. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
Before a motion's made, I have just really one comment on the benefits package, really, or, whether I liked the thought and ideas that went into offering different things, because I think that's important. One question or concern I had as we were spending some time delving into things is when an employee is leaving, whether it's through the police or the fire, I would think and I would hope that we have personnel policy in place that they go through an exit interview, they are specifically spoken to, and their thoughts, their reasoning, their issues, whatever they may be, is adequately reported and recorded and becomes part of personnel files.
Yes, going forward, the police department has been documenting, the fire department has not been providing documentation, but they have been instructed to do so. And HR has been conducting exit interviews as well. And that has been something that I am very adamant about, to make sure that we understand why people are leaving. If you ask the chiefs, and I've actually talked to some of the personnel directly, because I just want to give them the opportunity to let us know, if there's some issues that we can address going forward. And as the mayor says, this is a first step, and we will be looking at all of our benefits. As a matter of fact, I know GMA is working on something. I work with the GMA with their workforce development advisory committee, and we are working on, recruitment, retention issues statewide. So this is something that, going forward, we hope to start making some real I guess, progress in addressing the issues that are brought to our attention through whatever avenues, especially through the exit interviews that are conducted. Thank you.
You know, for the new folks here, we had some discussion. I'm not sure, Regina, if you were here for this discussion or not, but about when folks were exiting, that they would have to provide an interview to get their last check. And I don't remember where that went to. I think that got to Brian. But I don't remember any results, but I don't know why that wouldn't be something to look into.
I don't recall that,
I think it was
particular,
before your
yeah,
time. And
but we have been very diligent
Yeah.
about doing exit interviews since I've been here.
is that a possibility of the check being held until we get it so we're 100%?
Well, again, I'd have to talk to the city attorney to see if there's any legalities regarding that, but we will,
You don't like that?
work to document that in every file as much as possible.
I would like to see that brought back to us.
We can look into it. We'll do some research on it, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all for that. And Commissioner Martin, thank you. As I know, we were digging in and trying to figure out, what are the multitude of ways that we can make sure public servants stay working in our communities. With that, we will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the first responders package as presented, unless I need to further
I think we're okay.
equivocate.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you
About
so
a round of
much.
applause for that.
And with that, we'll move on to the city attorney items, discussion of proposed ordinance 1074, short-term rental ordinance. And we know that we don't have anything to move in this one because we're advertising it. But we also wanted to bring it back again one more time for full public discussion. So with that, I'll turn it over to City Attorney Brian Court.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm sharing my screen. I hope that it is presenting up on the televisions that are in Old City Hall. This has been an ordinance that has been in the works for, I think, since maybe last September. It has been brought before you on a couple of occasions. But we did, the last time I think we brought it forth, there were some concerns that had been voiced regarding several items that I'm about to go to. But just as a brief backpedaling to talk about the history of this ordinance and where it's come from, Glenn County enacted their ordinance, I believe 2 years ago now, short-term rental ordinance helping govern the regulations and the certificates necessary to operate a short-term rental in the unincorporated portions of Glenn County. After that occurred, I think the commissioners Martin and Kaysen both asked that this be looked into. So we started to put together a short-term uniformity between, but we have been asked more recently some of the regulations that the city utilizes in their short-term rental ordinance. Mr. Kitts brought those forth, as well as Commissioner Harris. So I did kind of work back through the ordinance. I'm going to go through now and shift some of the red lines that Mr. Kitts had recommended, and I think that are appropriate to be adopted into our ordinance. But there is going to be sort of a final question for the commission on one particular point tonight that I think is a commission level decision, but we can provide some guidance on where the jurisdiction should look to go. So most importantly, it's important to think that the basis and the template that we're working from is very similar to the counties. So the things that we've already looked at are definitions, the regulations, the certificates that are required, who is allowed to get a certificate, how it relates to the property, what they're required to do on the property, what education they're required to provide tenants. All of those requirements are already included in the ordinance. But tonight, as I scroll through to show some of these red lines, you should be seeing those up on the screen. One of the most important, I think, designations or additional changes that Mr. Kitts wanted to see added was definitions of owner occupied property. And there's a reason for that, because Savannah regulates their short-term rentals differently for owner occupied property versus pure investment properties. So an owner occupied property would be exempt from, not exempt, I'm sorry, but would be allowed to rent out their property in the wards that are split up amongst the city. So the city of Savannah is split up into multiple wards, each having a limitation on how many short-term rentals can be located within that ward. Now, if you're within a ward that is maxed out for short-term rentals, if you have an owner-occupied property, you can continue to rent that out on a short-term basis under the ordinance. So I do think that that is a good classification that needed to be added. So a definition of owner-occupied property was added to this most recent version. And then going down further, we'd start to discuss the definition of the short-term rental cap, which means the limit on the number of non-owner occupied allowed in either the North Ward or South Ward of the city limits. And kind of discussing with Mr. Kitts and I, the easiest, obviously, designation here is to just take the city of Brunswick and utilize the definition of the wards as provided in the city charter, which you can see is referenced here in section 2.11. And essentially what Savannah does is it places a 20% limitation on each ward within their city. So only 20% of the residential units within that ward may be offered up for short-term rental. And to be honest, looking into it, the city of Savannah, every single one of their wards is already maxed out. So there's already a wait list for almost every ward within the city of Savannah. Again, that wouldn't apply to owner occupied property, but it's important to note, I think that strikes a balance between, you have a residential neighborhood or a residential area similar to the North Ward or the South Ward of the city. You don't want to see it overwhelmed with short-term rentals. So that's kind of the idea behind the cap. The ordinance as written has 30% in it, the city of Brunswick's that you're seeing tonight. That is simply a placeholder. If the city, that is the question that I was talking about earlier, that I think is a commission level question. If the city commission wanted to see a smaller percentage or a larger percentage, it's in your purview, in your discretion. Again, Savannah utilizes 20% in each ward they have. Other items that Mr. Kitts identified, the transfer of a certificate and making sure that it's grandfathered in. So for example, if one of the wards in the city was maxed out and new short-term rentals were not being approved, there was a wait list. If there was a transferee, similar like having an alcohol license, it's not going to be evaluated regarding distance requirements. If there's a transfer of that certificate and the use continues, then it would be grandfathered in and they would not have to go back through.
Brian, just so you know, our copy doesn't have any of those blue marking. The only thing we have is some red markings on page 5, F and G, but all this blue is not highlighted the same way on our copy.
That's how it was sent over. Let me see what I see online. It doesn't show the blue markings. That is odd. Well, I don't know why it only shows up on F and G on page 5. The changes, it appears the changes are included in the version you have before you. So I see that on page 3, it does include the definition of owner occupied property. It also includes the short-term rental cap, which would be numbers L and Q. And it includes the two new items on page 4. No certificate issued in this chapter may be transferred and signed or used by any other person than to one who is issued. Interesting. I'm sorry, I don't know why the red line wasn't showing up. It's clearly redlined in the document that I'm looking at. Was it red line? Did you see the blue when I presented it on the screen?
Well, yeah, we can see the blue on the screen from your computer, but our download, it only shows the red.
I'm not sure. There must have been some sort of, I don't know if it was accepted when it was uploaded by the to the clerk's office, but when it was sent over, it should have had all the red lines in it. Well, those are the substantial changes to the ordinance.
Yeah, city manager, city attorney, Corey, I was gonna see if maybe we can get these changes provided tomorrow in our boxes in a printed version, but also maybe a PDF email so everyone has both printed and physical copy.
Sure.
Or physical copy and email.
In color.
In color, for sure. There's one of the questions that I had, and I'm not sure, but in here, city attorney, the sound is really low. So I may have misheard what you said. Am I hearing that we are kind of mirroring the Savannah ordinance in the sense that we are being asked to put a percentage cap, and instead of it being wards, we are going to act as if the entire city is a ward? And or is it somehow split between, are you going to split between north and south, or is we're treating the city of Brunswick as one?
You're correct in your first question that I am asking that the city commission make a determination as to whether or not the percentage on each ward is 20 or 30%. And we are utilizing both the north ward and the south ward, but they are being considered separate wards. So the city would be split into 2 wards pursuant to the definition in the charter. So the north and the south ward would be split, and then each would have a cap on. So it'd be 30 and 30 as opposed to a 30% cap on the entirety of the city.
And is in the Savannah space, is that percentage cap the same for every ward, or is there a change between wards? If you're downtown, maybe it's 10%, or if it's, does that change at all or no?
I don't believe so. I believe it is a 20.
It's 20% across the board.
I believe that is correct.
And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And do we know internally at all kind of the work they did to find out how that 20% became their number? I know we could probably reach out to their leadership and maybe dig into it a little bit, but I didn't know if you knew offhand.
I don't know offhand. No, it appeared to be, I think they tried to take the parcels based on, it appears, commercial use, non-taxable properties, and then how much residential use was placed there. And I guess they decided that 20% would be applicable across the whole, in the entire city.
Perfect. Appreciate you. Any questions?
So is that an applicable percentage based on our vacancy rate? Are we doing that comparable to that, or how is that?
Or he's asking us to choose the percentage.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna, okay.
Yeah.
There's no, that he was saying that there was a placeholder in there, so we
Okay.
can. we can-
Okay, so we still have the opportunity to work with that percentage.
Yeah, I think we should have some
Yes.
discussion about that,
Okay.
how the city sort of divided up and where how those percentages are going to work. Because really in each part of the city or ward, I mean, even if it becomes, let's just say it becomes 4 pieces as opposed to a north ward and a south ward, we have to carve it up differently. It would be good to know within those boundary areas that we're designating, how many residential properties are there? Because it could really skew an area. So where you've got way too many short-term rentals and very few full-time, and your neighborhoods start to
be affected
road.
by that.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't
Um,
want to erode the undergirding of the neighborhood.
Mhm. Yeah. One thing too, I'd like to make sure that we have some dialogue on is the enforcement, the process. You know, how's this going to affect staff? Do we have to purchase some software? Do we have everything we need? How long is it going to take to, and I know probably the county would be able to help us to some degree on what they went through, but I'd like to see us have some discussion and education on the actual rollout of the program and how that's going to affect staff and who's doing what and what.
The county outsourced it.
That's correct.
Mhm.
So
The
that's.
county
probably-
utilizes a property,
Yeah.
a program, I'm sorry, a software.
Yeah, we need to be looking in. Can you hear me? Well, I think we need to be looking into what the county has done with the total programming to include outsourcing and be ready for it. You hear that?
Yes, I did.
Thank
And,
you.
and part of what we had done earlier on when we had the short-term rental drafted was to try and build in time. So originally we identified this as being hopefully able to be rolled out by January 1, but with a July 1st effective date to try to give us the opportunity to work with a vendor that might be able to come in and provide the same sort of overview and guidance as the county's vendor. The county did provide us some statistics, showing that over the past year, they have been able to increase the ability to increase compliance with their currently drafted short-term ordinance through the use of this vendor that is helping track and maintain the certificates that are necessary to be given out to these short-term rentals.
Appreciate that, City Attorney. I know we have one person in the public here to speak to it. I don't want to bypass any other questions or comments for City Attorney Corey. With none, Mr. Kitts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. So again, and Madam Chair from the Audit Committee is here as well. We did take this upon ourselves at the Audit Committee to come up with this as a revenue project for the city. Within going through and understanding the various vacancy rates and the short-term rental ordinance as a whole, even with the 30%, we think that the 30% should be limited to 20% or less. Now, we are still, as an audit committee, we are still going through and reviewing and collecting the information based upon the demographics, not only as a North and South Ward, but those various neighborhoods as well, to determine and develop what would be either an average and or a median for those areas so that we can present this to the commission moving forward. And that will give us more information so we can make a more informed, you guys can make a more informed decision on how we should implement this ordinance. Outsourcing it, of course, we did look at outsourcing. And there was a company that we did recommend as an audit committee for doing this. And the audit committee has spoke with them a number of times to get information as well as provide advice on how the ordinance should be written in its current form. I'm not completely certain because, of course, the document that I have did not show all the blue that he was showing on screen. But in its current form, there's only a few things that the audit committee is still debating on within the ordinance. But moving forward, I would like for you guys to provide us with the audit committee enough time to complete our research on the vacancies and how it will affect various subsets of the wards, North and South, so that we can deliver this to you. Thank
When
you.
you say vacancies, are you talking about second homes that are, it's not a primary home, but they are not renting their house out? What defines a vacancy for you?
Those, the subset of data that would be considered our vacancy rates within our city based upon the area, whether that's a ward or an opportunity zone or neighborhood, and applying that, that data, again, to allow us to understand north or south ward, how many vacancies are in each one, and again, drilling down on those numbers to see which neighborhoods would be more affected or would have more based upon the 20 or was suggested 30% short-term vacation rentals.
Yeah. And
We would like to keep our neighborhoods.
yeah, and I think the 30% to me, that's, if you think about that, that's almost a third of a neighborhood.
No, absolutely.
That's what I think. That's too high. That, you know, we work hard to keep our neighborhoods. And, you know, to me, that kind of starts to erode neighborhoods, neighbors, all of that, the
And-
cohesiveness that.
Just something that was just floated around amongst the audit committee and emails, that excuse me, emails that we were having. If we need to go above that 20% or less limit, then we could look at the multifamily or other commercial rental type properties or multifamily, that sort of thing. And inside of our business districts where that's where they would thrive without encroaching upon our neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather start out on the conservative side.
Mhm.
Because you can always add and increase that percentage, but to have to decrease it, I don't want to have to do that. That's going to be a tough move.
Absolutely.
And just an example, when you all were talking about that, and nothing against the hospital, but we were not specific in certain things and how things were done with the hospital. And now we see the effect of them buying out properties, and those properties are being taken off of the tax roll. I know that these properties will still be on the tax roll, but just kind of using that as a scenario and making sure, we know we want to get this done. And we do feel the urgency in getting it done, but we need to make sure that we are properly prepared for what's to come. We don't want to make a decision based upon where we are now, but we make that decision based upon where we're going and where we see ourselves going and where we see this going.
I agree.
Mr. Chairman, I know the audit committee has been doing work on this. If you don't mind me asking, how long have you guys been working? How long has the audit committee been working on the ordinance?
Couple of years.
It was started when I first got here. I think the first meeting I went to for the audit committee, they were already working on it. So it's been almost 2 years.
So in the 2-year process, and thank you for the work that you guys have done on it. How far are we away from you all coming to some consensus in the audit committee about what those recommendations to us look like to fill in the ordinance?
I believe at this point, we're just simply compiling the additional data of the, again, vacancy rates per ward, drilling down to a neighborhood level. So we can either develop an average or a median, and to be able to show how that potentially could affect neighborhood specific.
And the reason I want to drill down a little bit and try and find out how much time that is because to me, the percentage is extremely important and make sure we get that number right. But also I look at it as right now, we have an unregulated market of people who can do whatever they want.
Yes,
And so the longer there is no ordinance, there is no regulation.
absolutely.
And so we want to make sure that we regulate this space, that we make sure we involve ourselves in making sure that even those who are inside of whatever percentage it is, that we have the regulations on paper to make sure they're being good neighbors and good users of the community. So I'm trying to figure out, I know this information is in hand, how long will it take you kind of to lock in and narrow in on that, on what that is?
I would
They meet
say,
once a month, right?
we only meet once a month.
Okay.
And I believe our next meeting is a few weeks from now. I will, working with the audit committee, try to complete as much of our information as we can present to the audit committee and look forward to present that to the commission and staff as soon as possible.
You don't have anything else to do, right?
No, I have nothing else to do.
So just as a date, if we could, can we move into a space where we're considering the wholeness of the regulation in May? Would May seem
Toward the end of May?
towards the end of May? Okay, that's what we need. I appreciate you.
Madam Chair, do you agree? That's
Okay.
the chair of the audit committee.
Wonderful. City Attorney Corey, we want to thank you for your work. I know you'll consistently be in touch with the committee as we continue to work through the process. So thank you.
And,
so
and
much.
I'd like to thank the city attorney, Brian Corey. He's been very helpful in this whole process, and so has staff.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We can barely hear you, but we appreciate you.
Couldn't understand you.
With that, I think we have some items for executive session.
Make a motion
do.
that we adjourn into executive session for real estate
Litigation.
litigation
Litigation.
only.
Hope you can
Okay.
hear me when we go in there.
Here in first, do I hear second?
Second.
Here in the first and the second, all those agree, show by you sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, we will now move into executive session.
I'm gonna tell Regina.
Mm-mm.
When people have that thing in the mic on a Zoom, you can hear them so much better because it captures their sound right there and channels it as opposed to, and I don't know if some of it's.
It
this,
is I've had to move
Yeah,
over.
Johnny said.
But
he thinks-
I just.
Alicia and I getting chummy over here, I'm gonna tell you. Gotta hear it honestly.
We're taking notes. Remain.
I think Brian is.
Motion.
I'm here.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Here in the first and the second, all those who are in favor, show by you sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
Aye.
we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.